Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Brown, Chairperson of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee of the City of Cambridge. Thank you for joining us today for this hybrid meeting. Please note that you can tune in by watching the live stream on the City of Cambridge's YouTube channel and in person at City Hall. If there are any issues with technology impacting this meeting, the meeting may be recessed at the direction of the chair or host to confirm that the electronic format is performing effectively before proceeding further with the agenda. A reminder to everyone that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, is, as the name suggests, an advisory committee that makes recommendations that then go on to council for a decision. The committee may agree or disagree with the recommendations. Because the committee is advisory only, the MHAC, as set out in their terms of reference and their mandate through the Ontario Heritage Act, cannot direct staff. Only council can direct staff to undertake further investigations or studies. I'll now hand it over to the clerk to do roll call.
Sue,
Present.
Nelson, Michelle, Meg Oldfield, Nancy,
Present.
Rosemary,
Present.
Mark,
Present.
Mario,
Present.
Meg McKay,
Present.
Adele,
Present.
and Councillor Kimson.
Present.
Before we continue on with the agenda, I would like to welcome to the MHAC Adele Summerfield. Adele is joining us as our second alternate member. Welcome, Adele, to the MHAC, and we hope you'll enjoy your time on the committee. A reminder to members of the committee that the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act requires committee members to declare any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to a matter under consideration. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move forward with the meeting. Our first item for consideration is approving the MHAC minutes from July 17th, 2025. Members of the committee may have a mover and a seconder to place this motion on the floor.
I move, Mario.
Thank you, Mario. And a seconder, Mark. Recommendation that the minutes of July 17th, 2025 meeting of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee be considered for errors and omissions and be adopted. Do any members of the committee have any questions? Seeing none, I'll ask for the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor?
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
In favor.
Rosemary,
In favor.
and Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Vanessa Hicks of MHBC Planning will be available to answer questions regarding item 1, the heritage permit for proposed construction at 1635 Blair Road. And our first report for consideration is 1635 Blair Road and heritage permit application. And we have a staff presentation by Nick.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Well, let's try this again.
I get too close to you.
Maybe now. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure to present the proposal for the retrofit of the site at 1635 Blair Road. for heritage permit application within the Blair Village Heritage Conservation District. The site is located on the south side of Blair Road between Old Mill Road to the west and Fallbrook Lane to the east, as you can see in the diagram on the screen now. It was previously occupied by the Farmers Inn, which was destroyed in a catastrophic fire in 2021. And all that remains on site is the foundation of the old building. And then separately, there are detached buildings at 1631 and 45, Blair Road, which are creating the larger part of this particular development. The Blair District Plan aims to ensure that the new developments that are proposed within the district are assimilated into the village and promote the historic attributes and the rural characteristics of the village. The proposal that stands before us was created by the applicant's team in direct conversation and communication with the heritage staff. And we believe that the presentation shows a contemporary but traditional looking building that is to be built onto the property. We find that it presents an architectural play on the idea, the vision of a historic inn, but the proposal in fact houses multiple dwellings within one structure that speaks both of a duplex when it's viewed from the street as a narrow building, and also as a multiplex row house when viewed from within the property itself. What you see on the screen right now are the proposed elevations of the building to be constructed on site. The top left shows the interior view from the parking lot of the site. The top right is the view that one would see from the street as one crosses along Blair Road. And the other two elevations at the bottom are the long sort of rear elevation that faces 1631 Blair and the areas beyond it, and then also the very back of the building itself beyond the parking lot facing in towards the woods at the back. When we speak of the idea of a visual heritage inn, this is what we're looking at right now. So this is the artist's rendering of the proposal for this building. You can see that both at the front along Blair Road, which is the left side of the three-dimensional rendering on the screen, as well as from within the site in the parking lot, there are dormers that are addressing the main elevation on each one of the two sides, articulating it in the form of a pseudo Tudor style building with the Tudor elements present in terms of the faux timber that are encased within the dormers. The rest of the building is dressed in a board and batten fashion construction, and it sits upon a stone veneer foundation and base, which is very reminiscent of inns constructed in the late 1800s. We also worked with the applicants to ensure that the landscape goes hand in hand with the proposed architecture that is to be constructed on site, so as to provide a harmonious view that is in keeping with the old village character. The parking scheme is accommodated away from the visual sightlines of Blair Road, no matter what direction you approach from. And the front of the building is nicely dressed with soft landscape material, all of which is native to Ontario. So overall, Heritage staff is satisfied that both the proposed landscape and the overall site plan are suitable and complementary to the proposed architecture and also to the Blair Village Heritage Conservation District and its guidelines. What you see on the screen now is the proposed site plan. At the top, you see Blair Road as it curves around the property, and you'll notice the narrower end of the building facing Blair Road, and the driveway that goes towards the parking lot that is further towards the back of the property itself. To the left and also on the right in gray are the existing buildings that are proposed to be retained on next slide that shows, oh, here we go. Hopefully you can all see this. There are shrubs that are proposed along the front and sides of the building, and also mature trees that are also proposed to be presented within the larger landscape theme, so that it is in full keeping with the requirements and the guidelines of the district plan. So that pretty much concludes the presentation. And Madam Chair, if you'd like to read the recommendation.
Thank you, Nick. Before moving to questions for staff, we'll place the motion on the floor. And may I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please?
I'll move, Mario.
Thank you. And seconder, Rosemary, thank you. So recommendations that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, support the heritage permit for the proposed new construction as detailed in Report 25037 MHAC, subject to the following conditions. 1, that following the approval by the City of Cambridge, any minor changes to the plans and elevations shall be submitted to the satisfactory of heritage staff prior to an application for a building permit and/or the commencement of any construction. And 2, that construction in accordance with this approval shall be completed no later than 3 years following the approval by the City of Cambridge. If construction is not completed by such a time, then this approval expires as of that date and no work shall be undertaken without new approval issued by the City of Cambridge. Do any members of the committee have questions or comments for Nick or for the representative from MHBC Planning, Vanessa Hicks? I have a question. So the property, if you're looking at the development from the road, the property to the right, if I understand the plans correctly, their driveway is going to be 2 cars, one in front of the other, and then the parking paved area for this development, correct? Will there be any will there be a fence between those 2 properties, or will it just be all pavement?
Thanks for the question, Madam Chair. There is no fence that is being considered to delineate or to separate the 2 dwellings, the 2 architectural structures on site. So the driveway that exists and connects over to the property on the right remains as you described, and it would be the delineation between the new construction and the rest of the site itself.
All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee members? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor.
Nancy,
In favor?
Mario, Mario,
Favor.
Rosemary, Rosemary,
In favor?
and Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Our next item for consideration is a heritage designation bylaw amendment for 41 Bastien Street. And we have a staff presentation by Nick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the property known as the Milroy Bibby House was originally identified as part of a large property contained within the north side of Dundas, Regional Road 8, and farm fields. Overall, the large property consisted of an 1840s fieldstone farmhouse, which is depicted in the picture at the top, a 1920s garage and a 1920s drive shed, and a 1940s brick cottage and some mature trees and a very large meadow. In 2012, as part of a subdivision application of this property, the owners have submitted a heritage impact assessment that recommended designation of this property, known as the Milroy Beebe House. This presentation was brought forward to MHAC in December of 2012, and subsequently in November of 2021, City Council has adopted bylaw 21-082 that designates the main house at the address that was at the time known as 1261 Dundas Street South, and had accepted the demolition of the ancillary buildings, the removal of some landscape material, and the acceptance of the boundary as shown initially on the bylaw documentation. An image will follow shortly. However, as a result of the development that followed on the subdivision and construction of municipal roads, the property that retained the building, the heritage resource itself, now is known as the municipal address of 41 Bastion Street, a brand new street that is within this development. What you have before you at MHAC today is a proposed repeal of the original bylaw 21082 that identifies the designation as the address of 1261 Dundas Street South, and a new bylaw to replace it that proposes no revisions whatsoever to the statement of cultural heritage value or the listing of the cultural attributes of the property itself, but only speaks to the change in physical address and also of the new boundary within the new development. What we see on the screen right now on the left is the large in red original 1261 Dundas Street South property boundary line. And within it in the middle in fainter purple is the current address of 41 Bastion Street that retains the actual heritage resource building. On the right, you see a blow-up aerial image of where the building sits, and you can see it is being surrounded by the new development to the left and to the top. So that would be the the west and the north. New application is soon to come in for additional construction to follow to the east of this property. So that pretty much concludes the presentation, Madam Chair, if you'd like to read the recommendation.
Thank you, Nick. Before moving to questions or staff, we'll place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please?
I'll move, Mario.
Thank you, Mario. Seconder? Rosemary, thank you. Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee supports staff recommendation to repeal designation bylaw 21-082 for 1261 Dundas Street South, Milroy Bibby House, and replace it with bylaw 25 to be determined for 41 Bastien Street, Milroy Bibby House, in accordance with attachment 4 to report 25038 MHAC. Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments for Nick? Councilor Crimson?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and through you. Just to clarify, is this sort of just a clerical adjustment, for lack of a better description, where we're taking a property that's already been designated and simply going through this process to ensure that we have the correct municipal address on file because of the development in the area?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Kempson. Through the chair, the process is requested by the owners of what remains known as 1261 Dundas Street South, which on title retains designation. even though their property does not hold any heritage resources. And as such, legally, we have to modify the content, the write-up of the bylaw itself that describes where the heritage resource is. And the solution to that is to repeal the original and remove any listing or any sort of heritage attachment and designation from the property deed of 1261 Dundas Street South, and create a new bylaw that in essence repeats the wording of the previous bylaw as far as the heritage resource goes, but attributes it and then attaches it to the title of 41 Bastion Street.
Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Any other comments or questions for Nick? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor?
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
Favor.
Rosemary,
In favor?
and Mark.
In favor.
And that carries.
Our next item for consideration is a sign permit for 31 Main Street, and we have Laura with us to give a presentation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good evening to the members of MHAC. This is a sign permit for 31 Main Street, which is located in the Main Street Heritage Conservation District. There is a barber shop that is going to be going into this location, and they are asking for a sign permit to be able to advertise their business. So we have a picture here up on the screen. This was also included in with your application package and your report. It's called the Lucky Devil Barbershop. The sign itself is not going to be illuminated either internally or externally. It is going to be all the letters are going to be mounted on with 2-inch long pins, as well as construction adhesive as well. The letters themselves are going to be made out of a plastic composite that replicates the look of wood, but they will be painted, and they will be the same color as the buff brick that surrounds the business itself on the exterior of the building. The letters themselves on the right-hand side of the picture shows the dimensions there, as well as the Lucky Devil portion of the sign is going to be 3D lettering. So it's going to have that beveled look that the example has there on screen. The smaller letters, which comprise barbershop, is going to be represented by the small letters below, and they'll be approximately 1 inch with a flat face. They won't be beveled like the larger letters will be. They will be mounted onto the existing fascia that will be painted black so that the cream-colored lettering will stand out and be visible. In addition, there is no amendment that's going to be needed for the sign by law, because the measurement of the sign itself is going to be within the parameters of the 1.25 square metered sign itself. It actually comes into approximately 7 square feet or 0.65 square meters in size. And what you do with these particular types of adhesive letters is you add up the dimensions of all the letters put together, and that's what encompasses your sign area itself. So this is just the description here of what the letters are going to look like. Next. Thank you. This is also the recommendation for the report. And this basically concludes my overview of what the report is. And I'll be happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Laura. Before moving to questions, we'll place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and a seconder for the item, please?
I'll move, Mario.
Thank you, Mario. Seconder? Nancy, thank you. Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, approve a sign permit through the city sign bylaw for a fascia sign on the commercial property municipally known as 31 Main Street. Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments for Laura? Seeing none, I'll ask for the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor?
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
Favor.
Rosemary,
In favor.
and Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Our next item for consideration is a recommendation to designate the property located at 7 McCausland Street. And Laura has a presentation for the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the first of three designation reports that I have for you tonight, and the first one is for 7 McCausland Street. This is a exterior shot of the property itself. This is an older photograph. This actually dates to approximately the 1980s, early 1990s, and is a photo that we have in our archives. I wanted to show you this particular photo because you can see it a little bit in the front here, underneath the porch, where there are 2 entry doors that go into the building. The one on the left-hand side of the picture, was believed to have gone into the residential portion of the building when it was constructed in 1885. And the one that's on the right-hand side, which goes into the portion that juts out a little bit, was believed to have been a butcher shop with a room upstairs. So this was believed to have been a butcher shop / residence at the time of its construction in 1885. Next slide, please. This is also a portion of the fire insurance map for McCausland Street. This dates to 1929 when this property was surveyed for the first time. And 7 McCausland is the building itself is located right above the 3, which is, sorry, I just want to shut off my notifications here. The building itself is just located right above the number 3 and 143. And so it denotes a blue building. And on fire insurance maps, a building that was noted in blue meant it was stone construction. 1.5 means the height of the building, so 1.5 stories. It also had in yellow, which is denoted by wood, yellow means wood, was a little porch area in the back of the property, and just below the 3 in 143 is the drive shed that is located in the rear of the property. So this shows you how little the property has actually changed over the years. And it also, today we still have all of those buildings still located on the property itself. This street was changed from John Street to McCausland because Archie McCausland was a builder in this particular area. And he also had a shop on Concession Street where he produced doors, windows, and sashes. And typically when someone built the first house on a street, the street would be renamed for that person. So that's the reason why we believe that this street was changed from John Street to McCausland, is because of Archie McCausland building this house to be the first on McCausland. Next slide, please. So here's a little bit of a synopsis from your report as well, just to give you some historical context. and the attributes that we have listed for the building itself for the reasons for designation. It was believed to have been constructed in 1885, and the reason we know that is because there is a date stone just above the top window, below the peak of the roof on the second floor. It's a yellow round square or round stone that has the date of 1885 on it. And again, we believe that it was built by McCausland, and the reason why it was changed to McCausland Street. The house was then associated in terms of ownership from 1920 to approximately 1942 by William Wilkinson. He owned a grocery business on Main Street, and he actually was one of the larger grocers businesses that Galt had at that particular time. And it was believed that he purchased it rather as an investment because some of his employees were listed in the census as living in the property itself. It's designed in a vernacular style with some Gothic revival elements, particularly with the stone construction and the sizing of the windows. The attributes that we've identified of this particular property are its stone foundation and its granite construction, the low pitched roof, the two entry points. The one that went into the butcher shop has actually been changed to a window. So it's no longer a door, but you can see the door jamb on the bottom portion where it had been rebricked up to eliminate that door. So you can still see remnants of it. The 1885 date stone is also an attribute, the stone sills and voussoirs, and the original drive shed that is in the rear of the property. It has a stone foundation and it's clad in wood barn board. We have assessed this property to have met 5 of the 9 criteria under Regulation 906 of the Ontario Heritage Act, and those encompass both the architectural, the historical, and the contextual value for the property itself. And just before I pass it back to Madam Chair, I wanted to let you know that so far we have not heard back from the property owner. We did send out a registered letter, as we do with all our properties that we're looking to designate, to inform property owners that we are beginning this designation process, and we explain what that process is, and that they're welcome to come to MHAC and do a presentation, or to also give us their thoughts on how they feel about designation. We also inform them that council is the ultimate decider in terms of whether or not a property will get designated as well. So sometimes they may decide to go to council rather than come to MHAC. But for 7 McCausland Street, and as with all 3 of my properties that you'll be looking at tonight, we have not heard back from any of the property owners with regards to any feedback or anything like that. So as of today, we've not heard back from the property owner of this particular property. So that concludes my presentation for this particular report, and I will pass it back to Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We'll now place the motion on the floor before moving to questions. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this item, please?
I'll
Rosemary
move, Mario.
and Mario, thank you. Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, supports the recommendation to designate the property municipally known as 7 McCausland Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments for staff? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor.
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
In favor.
Rosemary,
In favor?
and Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Our next item is a recommendation to designate 135 George Street North. And Laura has a presentation for us.
Great, thank you very much. So these next two presentations are going to be very similar. The reason why that we're doing two different presentations and two different reports, even though they're technically the same sort of same background and same history and development together, is because in the late 1960s, early 1970s, the two properties were severed. So then they became their own properties with different owners and different legal descriptions. So that's the reason why we've had to do two separate reports on these properties rather than combine them both together. So you may have wondered why we did two separate reports, and that was the reason why we did that. So with 135 was the main building of the Canada Bread Company. This is where the factory was actually located. So the bread was made in this particular building itself. So it was constructed in 1922, and we can go to the next slide, actually. So this is the southern portion of the building. This shows you how it has been changed a little bit over time, depending upon the use. So to bring the building up in the 1980s to current fire code regulations, a second form of egress had to be created to bring people from the second floor down into the parking lot area so that they could avoid or get out safely to avoid any fire that may have taken place in the building. So that is the reason for the egress there. The stainless steel piping that you see there and venting is for restaurant venting. There had been a restaurant that was in there up until fairly recently, and that was the reason why the venting was put on the outside rather than up through the floors and through the roof itself, because it would interfere with the second floor space. So they vented it out through the side and then up through the top as well, so that kitchen fumes could be expelled that particular way. You can also see very faintly some ghosting up on the top of the roof line right above the windows there that says Canada Bread Company. And so those are the remnants of the signs. On the first slide that we saw, you could see the signage for the South Waterloo, thank you, the South Waterloo Agricultural Society. This was put on the building in probably 1961 or 62, because the building actually ceased to become the bakery at that particular time for the Canada Bread Company, because they relocated to a new facility down on Water Street. And William Dixon sold the building at that particular time, and that's when the South Waterloo Agricultural Society took over the building. And they were there until probably the early 1980s, when they moved across the street over into Dixon Park itself, into the building that's there. So if we can go to the next slide, we can do the synopsis of the historical context and attributes, which is just basically the report condensed down into a nutshell. So as I mentioned, it was built in 1922 for William Dixon. It started up as the Dixon Bread Company, and he sold the business to Canada Bread Company in 1928, but he retained ownership of the building. And he also became the Canadian president for the Bakers Association, And he was also quite connected to a lot of different civic groups in the city. He sat on a number of different committees in the city of Galt. One of them was for the construction of the David Durwood Center, as well as the city commission for constructing the Park Hill Road bridge that went over the Grand River. So he was quite well connected to the city. Even though he didn't really sit on city council or anything like that, he was still involved as a volunteer for the city. So as I mentioned, the building was sold in 1961 to the South Waterloo Agricultural Society. So this is a different style of industrial building built in 1922 as compared to 19th century factories that we saw in our history. One, because it's constructed of brick and it's in a very simple format. There wasn't the fenestrations or details that you would see in different types of brick patterns or stone patterns that you would see with 19th century buildings. This was built to be very utilitarian and easy to maintain. But even though it may not have those architectural details, it's still an important building because it showed how businesses had actually progressed and changed into the 20th century in the city of Galt. So it's designed in that simple industrial style. The key attributes include the brick cladding on the building. It is also believed to be a steel frame, which was becoming more popular in the 1920s and 1930s, that you would see steel frame buildings that had cladding on the outside. So it's not a brick building per se, it's brick clad is what it is. It also has that flat roof design, and the current door and window apertures have not changed much except for where that one window was changed to a door on the south side. It also has retained all its stone sills and lintel plates, and they've been maintained very well over the years. And also the attributes are both the Painted Canada Bread Company and the South Waterloo Agricultural Society signs. So we would encourage the property owners to apply for a heritage property grant to possibly restore those signs in the future to really bring back that attribute that's very important to its history for the building itself. We have also concluded that this building satisfies 6 of the 9 criteria contained in Ontario Regulation 906 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Again, that pertains to architectural, historical, and contextual value for the reasons for designation. So that is my synopsis of the report, and this is the recommendation as well. And I will pass it back to Madam Chair to see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Laura, for your presentation. Before moving to questions, we will place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and a seconder? Nancy and Mark. Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, supports the recommendation to designate the property municipally known as 135 George Street North under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments for Laura? Mario, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Laura. This is Mario. I understand the rationale that you have presented. Where I've got a bit of a problem is that given the long list of potential designations that you have in front of you, I don't quite understand why this particular property has risen to the top of the list. I have not seen your list, but I assume, perhaps naively, that there are other properties that have stronger heritage attributes than this particular building.
Thank you for your question, and through you, Madam Chair. Just because a building is not pretty doesn't mean it doesn't have significance. And I believe that this is one of those properties. This property has also been suggested to us by a number of members of council as being important. And those questions came to us during the initial stages of the Galt Core Heritage Conservation District study that we did, and why these buildings were not included in that boundary area. So one of the compromises that we came up with then, rather to extend the boundary over to that side, because you're looking at also it being within the Dixon Hill Heritage Conservation District. So we couldn't have boundaries overlapping in that particular area. So the compromise was that was to add it to our designation list, which we ended up having to do anyway, because we're now having to evaluate all our listed properties before the deadline looms in 2027. So those are a number of the reasons why we're looking at this particular property. And why we feel that it's very important, an important part of our industrial heritage as well. A lot of people think that the 19th century industrial heritage is more important. It developed our town, it developed our city. That's definitely true. But 20th century industrial heritage is also important. And like I said, they went for simplicity and durability in the 20th century, rather than those fenestrations that you see on some of the older buildings. So it's a different type of architectural detailing, but it doesn't mean that it's any less important. It's still part of our development and still an important part of our industrial heritage here in the city of Cambridge.
Thank you very much, Laura, for your clarification. I'll go to bed tonight with a better understanding of heritage matters. So thanks for clarifying this.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions or comments for staff? Being none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor?
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
Favor?
Rosemary,
In favor.
and Mark.
In favor.
And that carries.
Our next item is a recommendation to designate 145 George Street North, and we have Laura again to present on this property.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, this is the property that's next door to 135, and it was all part of the same complex. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because a lot of the history is going to be similar. So I will try to focus my comments more on this building and what its uses were and what its attributes are that have been identified. So when this was constructed in 1922 as the Dixon Bread Company, which later became the Canada Bread Company, this was their shipping department, as well as their retail sales building as well. It has been a business since 1970, at least since 1970, when the building was sold in 1961. So we're not sure what businesses were in there between 1961 and 1970, but the current business has been there since 1970 itself. So long-standing business. They were the ones that added the imitation shutters as well as the awnings, and those actually give it some nice curb appeal rather than just the plain brick building that it had been at one particular time. And I think there's I included a picture in your report that dates to the 1940s. that shows both buildings with horses and buggies out in front. And that's how the bread was delivered to residents of Galt, was by horse and buggy at that particular time. So that shows you sort of a historic photo of what the building looked like, and again, how utilitarian it is, and how the current look gives it a little bit more curb appeal than the original building had looked. So again, it was constructed in 1922, and again, Dixon retained ownership of the building until 1961, where it's become a business ever since. So the attributes are fairly similar to what they were with 135. It's the brick cladding on the building itself. And again, it's a steel frame, just as the factory building was itself. The flat roof design, the current door and window apertures, the artificial shutters and all awnings on the front facade, and all of the stone sills and lintel plates are original as well. So this particular building has also satisfied 6 of the 9 criteria of Ontario Regulation 906, and which shows again the architectural, historical, and contextual value for the building itself. And here's the recommendation as well. And I would just like to reiterate again that for both these properties, a registered letter was sent out to the property owners to inform them of this designation process beginning, and to give them some guidance on how to make a delegation to MHAC and or to council if they wish to do so. But again, we have not heard from the property owners for both of these properties, and our letter didn't come back. They were received, signed for, and so they're aware of this designation process. So I just wanted to make that clear in case anyone had any questions about that as well. So again, the recommendation, and I will pass it back to Madam Chair to see if there are any questions about this property.
Thank you, Laura, for your presentation. Again, before moving to questions, we'll place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and a seconder for this item?
I'll move, Mario.
All right, thank you. And Nancy will second it. Thank you. Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, supports the recommendation to designate the property municipally known as 145 George Street North under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Do any members of the committee have any questions or comments for Laura? I have a comment, sort of a little bit of a question. I found the picture of the horse and buggies quite interesting, in that all the horses were white. Do we know if was something specific to this bread company, or was common for all bread companies in Ontario?
It's actually a good question. And I thought about it myself. So I actually went and did some research on this. And to what we can determine is the majority of bread that was bought and sold was white bread. And so that was the reason, or what is believed to have been the reason, is white horses, was to let people know that your milk and bread were being delivered in the same buggy, essentially. So you were getting white bread as well as your white milk, which they had a contract with a dairy that was providing milk as well too. So the same buggies were delivering the same products, essentially. And that was partly the reason why white was chosen. Dixon thought that it meant purity as well. And those were the reason for white horses. Whether or not that was a common horse color for delivering milk and bread, I'm not sure, but that's what Dixon believed was important in terms of his horse and buggies that delivered product.
Thanks, Laura. That was interesting. Do we have any other comments or questions for Laura from the committee members? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor?
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
Favor?
Rosemary. Sorry, Rosemary.
In favor.
Thank you. And Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Our next item is a recommendation to designate 35 Oak Street. And we have Edwin with us to give a staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, members of MHAC. Staff are recommending the designation of 35 Oak Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act for its heritage significance. Next. 35 Oak Street was constructed circa 1901 and is tied to the notable Peter Waters Gardner, who was a prominent manufacturer of doors, sash, columns, and moldings. The property is also associated with the early industrial development and is part of the concentration of upper-class residences within East Galt. Architecturally, 35 Oak is the 2.5-story Queen Anne building with a complex gable roof, corner tower, full with porch with Ionic columns, and projecting bays and dormers, all representative features of the Queen Anne style. The property also demonstrates craftsmanship merit due to its ornamental detailing. The key heritage attributes include, but not limited to, its Queen Anne style massing, cross gable roof, projecting gables and dormers, porch, tower, various window types, and prominent corner lot. These attributes make it a visual landmark as well as contribute to maintaining and supporting the character of the area. Under Ontario Regulation 906, the property satisfies 5 criteria, and it is architecturally significant, has historic value, and has contextual value demonstrating heritage significance. And thank you for your time, and I pass it to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Edwin. Before moving to questions, we'll place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and seconder for this item, please? Nancy
Second, Mario.
and Mario, thank you. Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee MHAC supports the recommendation to designate the property municipally known as 35 Oak Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Do any members of the committee have questions or comments for Edwin? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor?
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
In favor?
Rosemary,
In favor.
Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Our next item is a recommendation to designate 8 Crescent Place, and we have Scott with us to give us a presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. In this report, staff are recommending that 8 Crescent Place be designated under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Property was constructed around 1910 for William and Mary Hunter, who operated one of Galt's largest bakeries. In the 1920s and 1930s, their children transitioned into the growing automobile industry, reflecting the broader modernization of Galt's economy. The dwelling also occupies a prominent site overlooking Queen's Square. When the cenotaph was unveiled in 1930, local accounts describe people observing from the hilltop houses on the crescent, including this property. Architecturally, the house is an Edwardian 2.5-story red brick residence. Its most distinctive feature is the tower-like frontispiece facing Queen's Square. Other details include rounded arched sash windows, dormers, a pediment, a covered porch with classical columns and capitals, and a substantial brick chimney. The overall siting on the ridge gives the building a strong landmark presence downtown. The property's heritage attributes include its Edwardian form and massing and other architectural features, its setting on Crescent Place overlooking Queen's Square, and its visual connection to the Cenotaph and Main Street Bridge reinforce its importance in Cambridge's civic landscape. Staff have evaluated the property against the provincial criteria, and it satisfies 5 of the 9. It is a representative Edwardian dwelling with historical associations to the Hunter family, contextual significance to Queen Square, and landmark value as part of the Hilltop Crescent. Madam Chair will now read the recommendation.
Thank you, Scott. Before moving to questions for staff, we'll place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and seconder for the item, please? Nancy and Mark. Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, supports the recommendation to designate the property municipally known as 8 Crescent Place under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Do any members of the committee have questions or comments for Scott? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor.
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
In favor.
Rosemary,
In favor.
Rosemary,
In favor.
can you hear us, Rosemary?
In favor.
I think I heard you. Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Our next item is a recommendation to designate 11 Cameron Street, and we have Scott to give a presentation on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next property for consideration is 11 Cameron Street, which staff recommend for designation under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The house was built in 1890 for Thomas Little, the Scottish-born founder of T. Little and Sons Funeral Home, a long-standing golf business. Little was also active in civic life as a councillor and fire brigade member. Later, the property became associated with the Fleming family. Louis Charles Fleming's sons went on to national prominence. Donald Fleming served as Canada's Minister of Finance and Justice in the Diefenbaker government, and Gordon Fleming became a respected composer with the CBC and National Film Board. The house thus ties local history to both entrepreneurial and national narratives. Architecturally, this is a 2-story Italianate dwelling constructed in yellow brick with red brick accents. Key features include a hip roof, segmentally arched sash windows with stone sills, bay windows, and a curved veranda with a decorative trim. French doors with a transom add to the character, and the landscape corner lot enhances its presence in the streetscape. The heritage attributes include the Italianate form of massing, yellow brick with red brick accents and voussoirs, the hip roof, chimney, bay windows, and arched sash windows. The veranda with decorative wood trim, French doors with transom, and the corner lot setting with matured trees also contribute to its heritage value. Staff determined the property meets 4 of the 9 provincial criteria. It is a representative example of Italianate residential design with historical associations to both Thomas Little and the Fleming family. It contributes to the 19th century residential character of Cameron Street and supports the integrity of a cohesive heritage streetscape. Madam Chair will now read the recommendation.
Thank you, Scott. Before moving to questions, we'll place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and seconder for this item, please?
I move, Mario.
Mario? A seconder? Mark? Recommendation that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee, MHAC, supports the recommendation to designate the property municipally known as 11 Cameron Street under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Do any of the members of the committee have any questions or comments for Scott? Seeing none, I'll ask for the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor.
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
In favor.
Rosemary,
In favor.
and Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
Our final item is a recommendation to designate 154 and 156 Eagle Street South. And Scott again has a presentation for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The final item is a recommendation to designate the properties at 154 and 156 Eagle Street South. These two adjoining houses were built in stages by the Falk family between 1887 and 1910. 156 Eagle was constructed in 1887 by Peter Falk Sr., a German-born farmer and stonemason, as his retirement home. Around 1900 to 1910, his sons or sons-in-law built 154 Eagle, continuing the family's stonemasonry tradition. Together, they reflect both Preston's German immigrant craftsmanship and the community's transition from farming village to industrial town, as later residents included shoemakers, cabinet makers, and garment workers. Architecturally, the houses are rare surviving examples of vernacular rubble stone farmhouses in Preston. They stand in contrast to the ashlar masonry more typical of Galt. 156 Eagle features Italianate details, including an oculus window, a transom, and a date stone reading PF 1887. 154 Eagle shows a more restrained Edwardian vernacular style with wide eaves, a plain frieze, and Welsh arch window surrounds. Both houses are built of rubble limestone, granite, and field stones with relief pointing, showcasing traditional craftsmanship. The attributes of 154 Eagle include its rubble stone construction, side gabled roof, limestone coins, Welsh arch voussoirs, and sash windows. The attributes of 156 Eagle include its rubble stone masonry, front gabled roof, oculus window, transom, arch door panels, and the date stone PF 1887. Importantly, the physical and visual relationship between the two properties enhances their heritage value as a unified complex. Staff determined the properties meet 5 of the 9 criteria. They are representative examples of rubble stone farmhouses, demonstrate a high degree of craftsmanship, and are historically associated with the Falk family, whose stonemasonry shaped much of the Preston's built environment. Contextually, they support the historic character of Eagle Street South and contribute to the streetscape as a connected pair. Madam Chair will now read the final recommendation.
Thank you, Scott. Before moving to questions for staff, we'll place the motion on the floor. May I have a mover and seconder for this item, please?
I'll move, Mario.
Mario and Nancy, thank you. Recommendations that the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee MHAC supports the recommendation to designate the properties municipally known as 154 and 156 Eagle Street South under Part 4, Section 29 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Do any members of the committee have questions or comments for Scott? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call for the vote.
Sue,
In favor?
Nancy,
In favor.
Mario,
In favor.
Rosemary,
In favor?
and Mark,
In favor.
and that carries.
So we'll move on to that concludes our reports for this evening. We'll now move on to other business, and our first other business is chair's comments. And I would just like to say that it was great to see all these properties come forward to be designated, especially the ones that had been previously listed as high priority ones. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more of these properties coming forward October, November, December, etc. Do we have any report comments from Councilor Kimpson?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and through you. Kudos to everyone for all the hard work. The number of properties that has come through on this agenda, it's fantastic. Whether we say there's 7.5, recognizing that one's a duplex, there are 8. Really happy to see that and see that everyone is working through the list to really get as much of our heritage protected as we can. I'd also like to commend staff who have been working on the Hespeler Heritage Conservation District. There was a focus group that I attended yesterday to go over the work that's been done so far. It's now available online as well for anyone who would like to check it out and visit it, and there'll be more opportunities for consultation. So nice to see that continuing to move along. And we know that it's going to make its way to us here at MHAC. But in the meantime, if you're curious, certainly would encourage everyone to check it out. Everyone's been hard at work, so thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from staff?
Madam Chair, just a couple of very minor comments. First, I would like to introduce the MHAC committee members, not immediately and directly in person, but we have a new addition to our heritage team yet again. Her name is Cheyenne Mayu. She has joined us at the beginning of this week. She will be with us for a year, and she will join at the hip with Edwin, working very hard primarily on designations moving forward to the end of 2026. Another small note to make is we had mentioned at the previous MHAC meeting 2 months ago that an adaptive reuse of the demolition of a property is going to be underway. We have seen just this week the first draft iteration of the proposal for how to reuse some of the elements of the house, and I'm very happy to say that the proposal shows the intent to reuse more than 60% of the fieldstone rubble foundation in the incorporation of new walls within new knee walls within the retained property to be used for seating as well as for display and for information. And there is a potential to also reuse some of the rest of the stone brickwork from the house and whatever else can be salvaged to create the eventual commemoration element to be installed on the property. And lastly, the Forbes Tower relocation. There is an open house next week, Wednesday at 4 o'clock in Preston. Right? No, in Hespeler. In Hespeler at the Scout House, 4 o'clock next week, Wednesday. Right. The Hespeler Scout House. So we invite you and anyone else from the public, and bring your friends and family and enemies and anybody else who would like to come and attend and learn how this wonderful structure is going to be relocated and adaptively reused as part of the park setting. That's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. So we've reached the end of our agenda, and the final order of business is closing of the meeting. Do I have a mover and seconder for this motion? Rosemary and Nancy.